Evolutionary.org Hardcore 2.0 coming your way. This is episode 120. We're going to talk about why logging your cycle yields more results presented by Beligas. So this one's Mobster and I. We're going to go over what logging means. We're going to talk exactly what that is. You probably, if you haven't listened to many podcasts, you probably don't really understand what we're talking about when we're talking about logging. We're going to talk about things we have actually helped people on with their logs, how we have changed lives, and how others have changed each other's lives. We're talking about Beligas products the loggers are using. And we're going to talk about why we love Beligas. But first, let's talk about what logging a cycle means. So let me start off a little bit, Mobster, and I'll bring you in pretty quick on this. But so on evolution.org, we are very different than other bodybuilding forums. And we're definitely different than social media because we keep a positive uh, forum. We keep a positive forum. So it doesn't matter who you are, your background. You could be, overweight. You could be skinny. You could be young. You could be old. You could be middle aged. It doesn't matter. Male, female. We're going to support you. We're going to welcome you with open arms. And we're going to encourage you on the forum to improve yourself. So that's a good thing about weight training and bodybuilding is no matter where you're at, no matter what your genetics are, you can always improve yourself. And we've seen some amazing transformations and amazing changes
Yeah.
to people's physiques on the forum. But here's the thing. Here's part of the reason our forum has been growing and other forums have not. 99% of bodybuilding forums out there have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And we keep growing. And it's because you come on the forum, you get a log going, you keep track of things, and you're able to adjust things as you go. And we're able to help you adjust things as you go. And that makes your gains much better. And the nice thing about it, it's logged. So you can go back and you can see things you did before and correct those mistakes instead of doing the same thing over and over again. That's not working. So when it comes to your diet, when it comes to your training, when it comes to the steroids you're using, when it comes to on cycle, all that stuff, we're able to tweak things for you as you go and basically give you free advice. It's like having 10 or 15 coaches, and we have a lot of guys on there and gals who are in there helping you and supporting you and everything. So we've seen the changes in people's lives. And Mobster and I, we both have logs as well. And we did a prior episode where we talked about Mobster's log in depth. And we're going to do our next episode, which will be 121. We're going to go over specific logs, including my log that I've been working on myself. And
Yeah.
it's really helped Mobster and I to do our own logs. And it's helped spread information to others. And we're going to talk a lot about that on this forum. But logging basically means you're going to come on the forum, you're going to start a log. You're going to post your stats, you're going to post pictures. You can block out your face. Most people do, block out tattoos, whatever. So you stay anonymous. You're using an anonymous screen name. You're going to talk about your meals. You're going to talk about your training. You're going to talk about your steroid cycle. We're going to help you adjust things. We're going to give you advice, but we're not going to be preaching to you. We're not going to, if you want to have a cheat meal here and there, be honest about it. We're not going to jump down your throat for having a cheat meal. But if you're having a cheat meal every day, we're going to encourage you to get back on the train and start
Yeah.
eating more healthy. So the whole purpose isn't to flame you or put you down, but we want to encourage you and lift you up and make sure that you're able to get the most out of your training and diet and cycles and stuff. Mobster?
Yeah. I mean, look, Steve, I've actually had the opposite. And the reason for that being, I wasn't aware that a couple of the forum members that were running logs, specifically the Australian forum members, had knee, elbow, or shoulder issues. And because I wasn't aware of that, I was like, why aren't you squatting? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And of course, once you realize that there's an issue, then you kind of move the goalposts. So the obvious examples are, and we're going to get into specifics. We talk about people that are making small dietary mistakes, and you go, listen, if you want the absolute best results you're ever going to get, then you need to fix your diet mistakes. I look at your body weight, I look at your time in the gym, then I'm going to say to myself, why are you doing what looks like a pro workout? Cut some of that training down. Let's see you make progress. Let's see you get bigger, more muscular, and so on. Right. So as Steve said, absolutely, Steve, had some fantastic transformations. I'm thinking just in terms of new logs, where you and I have talked about in recent shows, people that have lost 80 or 90 pounds before they've started the log. You've got 310 pounds, I think, body weight starting, and then they got to 230. And now they're looking to get to see their abs for the first time in 20 or 30 years. You've got others, and a good example would be, Steve, someone that's, when we talk about logging your cycle specifically, someone that's never run a cycle. And so, therefore, their experience is going to be completely new to them. First time they do a pin, did they measure things right, and so on and so forth. And so we can literally walk them through it. You can even have, as I know occasionally happens, they'll get a message from someone who will walk them through over 40 or 50 or 100 words. This is how you draw it up for the first time. Here's a video link you can use. Here's a show where Steve and I have talked about that kind of stuff. Here's a good YouTube video that you can refer to, and literally baby step walk them through the same as you might do, Steve, with a buddy down the gym. So, and the key here, and we're going to get into specific examples of how we've helped people and how other forum members have helped these people. At the same time, the key here is the more information you put in, the better. Now, there are one or two. I saw one this morning, Steve, where the person had created a log, but they're pretty much, by their own admission, the most antisocial motherfucker that's ever been born. I think they put it in those words. And yet it was one of those kind of situations where, without giving them shit about it, they still created a log. So then you can immediately encourage them to say, this literally 5 minutes out of your day to post a little bit of information, and you can have a bad day at work, you can have a hell of a commute, get into the gym could be crazy crowded, and we'll come up, listen, here's another workout you can do instead of the workout you were thinking of. Here's some good food choices you can make in a bad situation. Here's why, if you're doing an 8 or 12-week cycle, there might be a week when you don't make any progress. Don't let it put you off. And all that kind of stuff that we all go through. I'm kind of at that point, and I think Steve Smees as well, when we almost don't need help and advice on how to diet, how to train, or whatever else. But it still means something to have us, regardless, because I'm going to get into why log's fantastic for other people later on in the show. It still means something to us to have people come and support us on our journey. We could argue, Steve, I could argue in terms of strength, I'm right up there now. It's ridiculous. For most gym members, in most gyms in any place on the planet, with one or two exceptions, I'm probably right up there in terms of strength. But when people are still patting you on the back, when people are still saying, well done, it means something. It's we'll still get tired. We still get hungry. We still get achy. We still have injuries. We still have life issues to deal with. And it's crazy how, and I think Steve touched on it earlier on, the difference between, and I actually thought of two forums as you were talking, Steve, that one was specifically absolutely huge just 5 or 6 years ago. And as soon as they lost their good forum leaders, it went to shit. And the other one where the owner of the company that was running the forum just really wasn't that fussed about the forums itself. You had a couple of people there, and it was a good back and forth. But the moment that the owner of the company that owned the forum took his eye off the ball and focused on making money elsewhere, the forum sort of seemed slowly died a horrible death. Why is Evo as good with the forum stuff as it is? Purely and simply because we want you, not just me and Steve, not just the forum, but the members of the forum, we want you to succeed. Your journey becomes our journey. We've had from time to time, and I'm not big on this, Steve, and even I'm probably better on it in real life than I am on the forums. I will still be amazed at some people's success. I will still be like, if you pull this shit together, you're going to be epic. I still want them to have a six-pack if that's what they want. I still want them to see veins if they've never seen a vein before. And you suddenly start to feel that you're playing part of that role as well. Imagine, if you will, and I'm exaggerating for the purpose of illustration, that as you walked to the gym, as you drove to the gym, people were going, come on, motherfucker, wait till you get here, you're going to kill it. Imagine that. You don't get that in every day. You don't get it in the shops. You might not get it at work. But on the forum, because we all walk the same road that you do, we're all going to the gym. We're all trying to train our asses off. We're all trying to get in shape. We're all trying to get strong. We're all trying to lose fat. We're all on the same fucking goddamn journey as you are. You've got all these people that, for argument's sake, Steve, I think the phrase "we've got your back" kind of seems appropriate here. Maybe it's I'm probably over exaggerating it a tiny bit, but there's an element of that because we've trod the same steps that you have, the same. How do I feel when I'm on testosterone? The same. Did I measure that out right? The same. I'm not sure where I should look for this piece of information. And you've got maybe 100 people. Never mind the amount of people reading, 100 people that will have that information or have trod that journey and want to tell you how they managed it and how the first time it was hard for them. So here's the thing as well, and I think this is especially true, Steve, for the first cycle, is getting you past that nervous injection protocol, etc., 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 and making your first cycle, your second cycle, your third cycle a success every single time. That for me is what we mean when we talk about logging a cycle, because what you're talking about here, and I'll get into specifics now before we move on, it's going to be the how to inject. It's going to be, do you need to tweak the amount that you're injecting? Do you need to change the day? Are there issues with you getting hold of the particular product? Did you make some mistake? And this is literally that kind of stuff. Almost at this point for Steve and I, kind of basic, but for the first timer, especially, getting that stuff sorted out so it doesn't feel complicated, so it doesn't feel scary. And once you see it written down, Steve, it's even less so if that's just for the individual. And then you've got people saying, I've done exactly the same cycle as you. These are the results I get. That gets you excited because they go, oh, such and such, Joe put on 11 pounds. Janet put on 5 pounds. This is what I can expect. Look at the photographs they put up of themselves. How do they compare to me? Will I get the same results? So stuff like that, Steve. What do you think about the actual? What would you like to see specifically when we're talking about logging a cycle? I mean, you're going to get into how we can help people on the issue and things that we've sorted as well momentarily.
Yeah, so I always tell people when they first start a log, check out the other logs and see what people are doing, how they're structuring it, and see the most successful people who've had the best transformations and see what they've been doing. Get ideas from each other. I get ideas from people. Mobster gets ideas from others. There's been some meals that I've made that I've seen in people's logs, and I've been able to make those same meals. I've seen some training that I never even thought of. I had to Google what they even were, because I never even heard of some of these exercises that people were doing. It's been fascinating. You have all kinds of exercises. You have power lifters, you have bodybuilders, you have people who do CrossFit, you have people who do body weight exercises. There was a
You just
guy.
reminded me. You just reminded me, Steve, that one of our members is in a wheelchair due to a spinal injury, and he described just the other day, and I had to ask, and then he actually put up a photograph, video, I think, but I looked at the image before I clicked on the play button of some specific bicep exercise he was doing in a wheelchair, and essentially his arm was way behind the chair, so he's getting a really good bicep stretch, and then he was pulling into the contracted position and then moving the arm forward at the finish of the movement. And I thought I have seen something like that years ago, described differently, but again, he had adapted it for his own purposes because he's in a wheelchair, because he has to kind of brace himself. And it was fascinating to see. And again, sometimes people rename exercises, you double check that they're doing what you think they're doing. But he had actually kind of worked this thing out. I've only seen it done a couple of times over the years. And it was fascinating to see that he adapted something for his requirements and he had good arms, he had good biceps. So what the fuck he was doing, man, was working. And it reminded me, again, I haven't seen this exercise probably illustrated for 10 or 15 years. So there it was for us to see. Again, that's not just for me, but for all the other members that might need to do something like that, even just for the bicep stretch in that particular position, never mind the contraction, etc. And of course, it shows that disabled wheelchair athletes can still have great arm workouts.
All right, so let's get into the next topic, things we have helped people on. So let me start with the diet. And one of the things that you'll notice on the forums is the Australians, they eat such a healthy diet compared to the Americans. And the Australians are much more leaner, the obesity levels are lower, their heart disease are lower, their diabetes levels are very, very, very low. And I've never been to Australia. Maybe one day I'll go. Down the line. I think it would be cool to go. But one of the fascinating things about Australia is for some reason the poor diets has not reached there. And
Yeah,
I think I think it might have something to do with, the way the government is over there. They're very strict when it comes to that. They're not going to let food companies, pollute the products. But I don't think that's the same case in like China, for example, because all the fast food companies have gone from
Yeah,
America to India to
Russia too.
China,
Yeah,
and they've been
yeah.
like, come on in, set up shop, McDonald's, and all these.
McDonald's in Moscow Square, I think, was when Red Square's got a McDonald's for crying out loud, Steve.
Yeah,
And
so
you're
I
right.
mean, yep, yep. So I think that's a big reason, but really, really good to come on the forums and check out the Australian laws. I always tell guys, look at the way the Australians are eating. There's a reason why they're leaner. There's a reason they don't have heart disease. There's a reason they don't have obesity. And they eat very clean food. So one of the things that I've always tried to help people with, especially the Americans on my side of the pond mobster, is teaching them how to eat a more nutritious diet
Yes.
free of the garbage, the preservatives, the emulsifiers, the additives, the other shit that gets put in the food, the refined oils. So if you go walk down your street and you look at what on recycle day and you look at the recycle bins of people, you'll see all the junk they're eating, the pizza
Mm.
boxes, the cereal, the packaged foods, all this stuff. And you can tell that these people are sick, they have lots of diseases and stuff. So, first thing that I've helped people on is teaching them proper nutrition, sticking to whole food options. You won't go wrong feeding your
Yes.
body a natural
Yes.
diet. You wouldn't feed your dog a bunch of processed food, or
Steve, why use steroids or other performance enhancing drugs, train your motherfucking ass off, and then, as it, per an example we used in a similar podcast about training logs, where every single thing that one member was eating came out of a box or a tin. Everything. It used an app to log the food, and every single food had not been peeled, prepared, cooked by him, prepared by him, blended by him, or nothing. Nothing. It was all packaged. Every single item was packaged. Literally, there was a name brand associated with every item on the menu that he was eating. And yet we know food wise, and there's two examples. One is the logs that had the best results, and this includes when they're cycling a log, had the cleanest self prepared or prepped food. That was number one. Number two, and it's a small thing that people forget, and I'm thinking of one specific moderator that recommends this every single time. And sometimes you're like, why is he saying that again? But when you think about it, it makes sense. If you are going to take a high protein diet, and especially if you're restricting your diet for competition, fat loss purposes, etc., and lastly, if there's a kind of limited amount of range of meat or vegetables or protein or carb options, or especially when a competition diet is involved, he was always recommended fiber. And again, this specific, if you've got guys taking 400 grams of protein per day, then the last thing you want to be is constipated. You want a clean, healthy gut. Something Steve and I have actually discussed, and specifically Steve's discussed with regards to fasting. And we talk about gut health. So again, we're pushing our bodies hard in the gym. We're risking specific inflammation of our joints and so on and so forth. We're restricting certain food options because we want to be leaner, faster, have more endurance, etc. Maybe we are competing in an upcoming bodybuilding competition. And so, therefore, healthy gut, flat stomach, no bloating, no water retention because of stomach issues makes sense. So, simply just saying, can you increase your fiber a little? I've done one, Steve, where there's no fruit or vegetables. Or if there are fruit or vegetables, it's like one or two choices. You want to be the absolute healthiest you possibly can while using drugs, while trying your asses off, but you're only in one vegetable or two vegetables, and that's literally per week. So it's just stuff like that.
yeah. So let
Again,
me, yeah,
yeah,
let me touch on the diet a little bit more, and I'll bring you in, Mobster, to talk more about training. So one of the things that we try to encourage is food prep, and a lot of guys they'll post pictures of food prepping, and I think I really like 2, 3 years ago started encouraging people to post that. So now a lot of guys are doing it. Food prep twice a week is very, very important. You in food prep means you're cooking your foods, your vegetables, your meats, okay, your rice. You cook them, You pack them, you store them properly, you put them in the fridge. Then when you want to eat a meal, you literally just reheat it and boom, you're good to go. Or you can take it with you to work or whatever. And this will help you eat healthier. So that's one of the areas that we have helped people on. Another aspect is being honest. Very, very important to be honest about your diet. This way it can be improved. So if you have a cheat meal, be honest about it. We're not going to jump down your throat about it, but we're going to push you to show you examples of how you can improve. And we're, in America especially, we are, you know, there's a lot of propaganda out there when it comes to food. Fast food companies, they spend billions. They use athletes to promote their foods, and so a lot of people, especially those of you who, especially with the young male demographic, it's very easy to be manipulated and lied to because you see your favorite athlete eating a Big Mac and you want to go eat a Big Mac, or you see your favorite athlete for Subway. There's a reason these fast food companies they pay these athletes money to endorse their products and to do commercials for them is because it works. And it's very, very important to understand when you come on the forum that that's not the way that you're going to have success bodybuilding. So we're going to show you the way to do it. And so right now, if you're the person you go eat fast food every day, that's okay. Come on the forum, get your log going, and we'll help you adjust that and we'll show you the right way. A perfect example is with a burger. And I tell people this all the time. And sometimes people have a cheat meal, and I'll tell them, look, instead of getting a burger from a fast food joint that's full of refined oils, it's fake. Okay, it's made of like 100 different ingredients. It's the lowest quality beef. It's the bun is processed, tons of emulsifiers which destroy your gut health, destroy your immune system. And it's got oils that they cook them with oils which don't belong in your body that cause your arteries to get clogged up, both inner and outer part of your arteries. Make a burger at home, grass-fed burger with lettuce wrap. And then you can make your own ketchup, crush up some tomatoes and make your own ketchup. Now you have a delicious burger that you're making. That's a perfect example of how
Yep.
I've helped people when it comes to their diet. These are just little changes. And the burger tastes delicious that way. It tastes better than the burger you would get from the fast food joint, and it won't upset your stomach after you eat it or hurt your progression. So that's a perfect example. And we've seen an example of one of our members, and we're talking about him on the next episode, Dominion. He's an older guy. I believe he's in his 50s, Mobster.
Yep.
And he went and he got the doctor kind of scared him a little bit. He went and got tested his heart scan, which everybody should be doing. If you're over 50, you should be going and get your heart scan. Okay, especially if you've led a stressful life, if you use anabolic steroids, etc. But what's interesting with him is he has had an amazing journey. We're going to talk more about it on our next podcast, which is
Yep.
episode 121. But he got his numbers back and he came out clean. His numbers came out clean, which is shocking. 2 years ago, when he first started logging on the forum, he was overweight and
Yep.
he was in bad shape. I mean, bad, bad shape. He couldn't do cardio. He was so winded when he would try cardio. So that's a perfect example of how we have literally helped people's lives get turned around. And he's still plugging, and now he's able to help other people improve as well. So that's another aspect. It's like paying it forward. Go ahead, Monster.
Yeah. Let me give you some examples we cover in these kind of shows, not just specific log shows, but we've covered blood work in shows. We've talked on the forum. There are peptide calculators that can help you measure the milligrams or even micrograms of a peptide and how to mix it. We've talked about that on shows as well that Steve and I have done, and so on and so forth. And even though that information is out there, sometimes, especially when it's new to you, there's a sort of sense of almost overwhelming. I've actually said, Steve, that the reason why some of these shows are so successful is that most of the information that we use on these shows comes from our practical experience, but also from research that we do. And we're not overwhelmed by that research. But if you're new to this, the volume of information, even the information that we sometimes provide, can feel so overwhelming. And there's also an element of, and it's kind of true and untrue at the same time, Steve, in terms of the uniqueness of your journey. So some people can even be embarrassed to ask certain particular questions. Do you think? Don't be embarrassed. We've all done the thing that you're going to ask us about. We've all made mistakes. That's how we learn to do it correctly. You're not as unique, perhaps, as you sometimes think in terms of the thing that you're worried about, that you want help with. The information was so much, and what would made worse if you went off the forum conflicting information. Well, this person said this and this person said that. But the classic example of that, Steve, is my buddy down the gym. In my mind, Steve, I'm thinking, who knows, fuck all. He's trying to help you, but he's got his information from somewhere random and you don't even know the source of the information. Did something and somehow managed to gain 5 or 6 pounds of muscle. He said, I should do this. Is that correct, guys? No, no, we're talking about thousands, thousands of Evo members, Steve. A buddy of mine that used to coach with regards to steroids back in the day, at some point, had probably had over his career 10,000 people that he'd spoken to and given steroidal advice to. Very few people at that time, and very few even now, could give you that level of information based on working with 10,000 people. When we're talking about Evolutionary, we're talking about 100,000 plus members, more than that. On a daily basis, tens of thousands of people are coming to and looking at the forum. The amount of people that come to that forum and just search for information, never post, never even join, just literally search for information that's in logs, in subjects that we've created, in threads that are specific to a subject. And again, of course, these podcasts as well. So, yeah, it can feel like your journey is specific to you, but in reality, parts of your journey, the overall journey maybe, but the thing that you're worried about, the thing that's scary, the thing that's confusing to you, the one that you've been overwhelmed by, we can help you. Because I guarantee you, as an example, like I said earlier on, Steve, with regard to the members with injuries, Steve and I have had shoulder injuries. Steve and I haven't had, but we know for a fact that there are several members that have fucked their knees, either through sports that they've already played or for just simple good old-fashioned wear and tear. So then you say straight away, there are going to be half a dozen people with knees in the same kind of condition or similar condition to yours, and therefore, just from practical experience alone. And it's things like, and I said this on one log this morning, Steve, that particular person, I think, had done a lot of kickboxing or cage fighting, which involved in their sport specifically kicking the fuck out of your opponent. And they said the knees were fucked. The ability to kick and push opponents away with their leg and use strength for that purpose was fine. But in terms of the actual knee and the traction from forward, extension, and vice versa, was all over the place. So when I lift my crazy heavy weights, will strap and wrap my knees. And I do that so that I don't have problems with my knees. And of course, I've not done cage fighting or kickboxing or whatever else. But that wasn't the issue. Can we help them with sleeve advice? Can we help them with strapping advice? Can I, for example, I've seen members that have strapped and wrapped from the first set. No, just wait to the heavy stuff. Make sure you warm your knees up. What have the others done to help them recover? And so on and so forth. I mean, the obvious thing, like I said, especially Steve, we talk about blood work on these shows. We talk about blood work on the forums. But if a member's never got blood work before, is this good? Is this good for my age? How do I understand it? And then, for example, even if they got a vague understanding of how it works, but they're putting a cycle log up, mid-cycle blood work, end-cycle blood work, how soon after the end of the cycle should I get that done? Should I recover? And things like this. So it's all that kind of stuff where you get into the nitty-gritty of someone's particular journey. We've seen, for example, Steve, they run our 12-week and we followed them for 8 weeks or 9 weeks to get to the 12 weeks. So we know where they started from. We know the issues they had earlier on, and we know where they are now. We know that they're back on track. We know that they're spending time, as Steve says, doing food prep. So you can almost start to wave the flags, Dave. See, the end's really come. You've lost so much weight. You're in far better shape than when you started. And get trouble. Here's the thing: you're going to get even better in the next 2 weeks. Can you get excited how you're going to look at the end of the 4 weeks that are left, and things like this, Steve? So again, as an example, and I'll use myself as an example. When I've trained for specific strength competitions back in the day, what's the hardest part of those training programs, Steve? Whether it's the steroids and cutting and bulking or whether it's training for a specific event, it's going to be the last few weeks, Steve, when you're grinding. If you're new, it's the first couple of weeks. But when you've done it a few times, it's going to be those last 4 weeks when you're tired, when the cardio's killing you, when the kids are screaming and you still got to get your training done, when life's getting on your ass. But it's those last few weeks because the results seem to come their best in those last few weeks. When you put the most work in, when it's the most strenuous, the reward of the end is the payout. And so getting people through those tough times, and especially the last few weeks of a cycle, is where you and I know the payout's about to come. The result at the end's going to look amazing. What do you think on that?
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the specific changes that we've seen with guys. Mobster mentioned a lot of examples so far, but I'll bring this up too. Alcohol, drugs. We've seen former addicts come on here and be open about it. We it's funny because a lot of us were raised to not,
Oh, we didn't talk about it
yeah,
before, Steve.
because it was considered weak to admit that you
Yeah.
were upset about something. And let me tell you something. The
Well, you,
people,
you'd get phrases, Steve. Listen, you used to get people say, I'm not an alcoholic, but I do drink a lot. I don't use drugs,
yeah,
but sometimes, da, 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 da,
yeah.
da. And
There's a
you know that it was an every day, every weekend thing all the time.
Here's the thing, the people that are saying that, they're the people who are struggling inside. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? All along. So being open about something is important. Sharing your life with others. We're social creatures. So
Yeah.
keeping things bottled up inside is not smart. And not admitting you have a problem when you do. We've seen people come on the forums and be open and honest about their former drug use, about their former alcohol use,
Yeah.
about their former they've been, former criminals. Maybe they were in jail or something. They did time, whatever. And they've been through a lot of stuff, divorces, and a lot of bad shit has happened to them. They've come on the forum and been open about it. I went through a struggle. Now I'm getting back on track. And the logging actually helps them stay on track
Yes.
because it allows them to be supported every day. It
Yep.
gives them a motivation and inspiration to do it. And seeing other people who have had similar backgrounds and similar stories definitely pushes them. Let me tell you something, you know, compared to 99% of the world, I think Mobster and I have had an easier life compared to 99% of the world.
Yeah.
All right. But there's people out there who really have had a tough time. Lots of bad shit has happened. They've
There's
lost.
been you and I know, Steve. There's been both drug and alcohol issues in my family, not myself, but within my family circle. And the advantage I have as an older person, 60 plus years of age, from life experience, and Steve will have some life experience for the same reason, and not just in himself, but from other people and people that he knows and extended friends and family, is that we are, because of our personality types, are able to bring that information to the table to support people to know when, for example, people have fixed alcohol issues, when they fixed or recovered from drug issues, and what they did to do that. And we know how positive going to the gym is. We know that the reinforcement, the positivity you get from a clean diet and great training, and literally the distraction that you have from going to the gym over the drugs, and the feedback you get from us, from the members, from people around you, from your friends and your family. My God, you're looking
Yeah.
great.
So,
Yeah,
so here's the thing, and I have a psychology background. Everyone knows that. Transferring an addiction to another addiction is probably going to work the best versus shaming someone. So, in other
yeah,
words, this is why like religious organizations that try to help drug addicts and alcohol addicts, those people reoffend. They go back to their addictions because shaming people, this is what they do. They shame people. And those organizations, it doesn't work. What rather works is turning one addiction to another. So turn it into a positive addiction. So instead of being
yeah.
addicted to alcohol and drugs, come on the forum, get addicted to the gym. As Mobster said, get addicted to the gym. Get
To a good
addicted
lifestyle.
to getting into shape, doing cardio. You don't have to be a gym rat. You can do cardio. You can come and do a log where you're just jogging every fucking
You can
morning.
do
Literally
yoga,
just
Steve. You can
every
do
morning.
gymnastics.
You
You can
don't
do
have to, yeah.
calisthenics.
You
Yeah.
don't have to even go to the gym. You don't have to set. You can go
No,
literally run around your neighborhood every day for 30 minutes and do a jog. I see people in my
we've had,
neighborhood
we've
doing
had
that.
people, Steve, doing workouts in their
Yeah.
hotel room when they've been traveling for work. dumbbell in the
Yeah.
boot of the
So
car,
you can
kettlebell, and
literally
put under the bed.
start the log. Let's say you're going through addictions right now. I don't care if it's a porn addiction, alcohol, drugs, whatever addiction it might be, weed, anything, right? Where you're addicted and you're wasting all this money on this fucking addictions, right? Vaping, all this stuff. Literally start the log. Come on the form, start the log, and just give me 30 minutes of jogging or fast walking around your neighborhood
Yes,
every fucking
yes,
morning. Wake up, take a shit, go piss, drink some water and go do it and log it
yep,
every day. Log the experience. Be like, instead of doing alcohol, instead of doing drugs, instead of doing porn, instead of doing that when you wake up in the morning, go and
yep.
do that before work. That's the way you start. You don't even have to go to the gym. So
Started
anything.
your day right.
Yeah.
You've started your day on a positive.
So anything like that works perfect. Then later on, you can add going to the gym in the afternoon, but you can log that every day. Be like, I went and did 30 minutes. You know what? It was hard. I haven't been in shape in years. The first day was hard. The second day was hard. The third day was hard. Then after a few weeks, you're going to be logging. You're like, it's getting easier. Now I'm able to
Yep,
run around my neighborhood in
absolutely, man.
in the same amount of time. It was taking me 20 minutes to run the same
Yeah,
distance. Now I can do it in
yeah,
15 minutes. And you keep
that's it.
improving from there. And that's the beauty of doing a log on the forum. And we'll support you
Here's one,
and we'll
Steve,
give you
and
tips.
I touched on it earlier on with one of the members. Um, we can be so busy or distracted with social media or whatever else. It's hard sometimes to find 5 minutes of your day. But I'm reminded of stuff that Arnold Schwarzenegger and others have said. It's one of those weird things that literally the first step or the second step, and realizing that perhaps you're playing a game on your phone for 10, 15, 20 minutes and spending 5 of those minutes putting your log down and you go, oh man, I don't want to run a log. It's all too much, blah, 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 blah. And then before you know it, especially if they do just a few entries and they get some positive feedback, some encouragement, next thing you know, they're back on there. And then here's the really, really great thing, Steve, which you absolutely got to love. I once, it sounds religious, but you also almost get a convert because now they're okay and they feel more comfortable giving you the information. I've had a good day, I've had a bad day, I had a cheap meal yesterday, whatever. But I want to tell you guys because I know you guys have got my back. And the best part of that, Steve, is they end up being some of the people that will encourage others themselves. They'll go from their own log, which started off struggling and finding the time in the day. And here's how I used to be. I used to be kind of fucked up. And those people can be the best people. I'm going to give you an example. I just come back from, funny enough, having a burger before this podcast, Steve, with a buddy of mine who used to be terrible for recreational drugs some years ago. And he is probably one of those guys, including myself, that will come and pat you on the back. He's only a young fella, super encouraging in the gym, super positive all the time, possibly because of the journey he's had, but certainly because getting to the gym stops him doing stupid shit. The energy that he expends at the beginning of the day means his day set up bright, positive, the endorphin high, the exercise high, and tooting and waving to people when he's driving around and all this kind of stuff, super sociable. And I suspect that if we'd have come across him 10 or 15 years ago, he would not have been like that whatsoever. So those people can actually end up being the most helpful, the most encouraging. And again, it's because they've been down that road before you. And here they are, come on. Oh, I don't know if I can find 5 minutes to post. And now they're encouraging people to post. Now they're telling, I've been where you've been. This is what I was able to do. This is what the forum helped you with. I want to help you the same way the forum helped me. So they can actually be the best people, Steve, when it comes to that kind of stuff. It might be a struggle to begin with, guys, but you'd be surprised how easy it becomes. And it's literally, it might just be a few sentences. Had a great day at work today, got a wage rise. Yesterday was horrendous. Could barely get to the gym, but you guys were right. Once I got to the gym, I had a great training session. So here's the thing, and I want to touch on this aspect as well, Steve. And I talked to Steve about this in the pre-show. Right. So this a rule of advertising kind of applies here. So here's how this stuff works. Let's say, and I'm just using a silly example here, you and I have a quick look at the forums and we could probably find 50 to 100 active logs. Some of those will be specific cycle logs. They're talking about what they're using in the topic title, or once you get into the log, you see what they're using, you'll see what they're running for their PDs. There might be on pretty much every single one of those active logs 50 or 100 people over the course of the log, some every single day, some over the course of the 12, 16 weeks, whatever, who come in and support you and help you and ask questions about what you're doing, encourage you to meal prep, taking photographs. Can you do a picture this way? This is how you need to do this. This is how you need to do that. Helping as much as they possibly can. The rule of advertising is thus, and I think it works along the lines of for every single 1,000 people that see a poster for a product, you get a roughly 1 in 1,000 hit, meaning if 10,000 people go past, you've got 10 customers for your new car. When it comes to training logs, the influence that those logs have on other members who don't post is huge. It's probably 100 to 1 of people just reading versus posting, and 100 to 1 of people posting versus the actual member. So that gives you a huge number, 1,000, 10,000 people that you don't realize. And some of these logs, Steve, are historical. If someone on the forum did a log and ran a cycle where their goal was to get a six pack, then someone else, even if that log's finished, someone can come onto the forum, search for training log six pack in the search items, in the search bar, and find 3 or 4 logs where that's exactly what that member wanted. That's exactly what they did. And they can click at the page 1 and see someone who's a bit out of shape. And they can go to the last page, Steve, and see someone the world's fucking greatest six pack. Oh my God, the transformation. Now they want to read the rest of the log. And that's not even an active log. If they go onto an active log, they can ask that member how they've managed to get to this point. So you don't realize the influence that you get. You get the support yourself from people like me and Steve and other active members that support people all the time. And then you are influencing other people with your journey without realizing you might actually be encouraging someone, as you say, Steve, to come off of alcohol, someone to lose weight, someone to get strong, someone to get lean, someone to win a competition, someone to go on a competitive stage, a person who's in their 20s, a person who's in their 50s, a person who's in their 60s. Like I said earlier on, Steve, someone who's in a wheelchair and it's their first time. They've never trained before. They've recovered from some massive traumatic injury or huge horrendous surgery. And they can find a member on our forums right now in a live log, right now, with a spinal injury in a wheelchair, kicking fucking ass and looking amazing. Like I said at the beginning of the show, someone that's gone 310 to 230 pounds. So they've lost 80 fucking pounds of fat, 80 pounds of body weight, but mostly fat, Steve. And go, if he can do it, why can't I fucking do it? If that person can get off drugs, why can't I? If that person was scared of their first injection and now look at them at the end of their cycle, why can't I? So the influence that you have and the positivity that you put out into the world rewards you. You're getting positively back from the active members. You're getting positively back from just the occasional little comment every single fucking day, but you're putting that positively. Your journey helps other people, Steve.
So let's get into some of the most popular options that loggers are using from Beligas gear. And Beligas has you covered when it comes to orals, injectables, and everything else in between. So the first one that's most used is testosterone. And we've seen testosterone used. Guys are self TRT. They're doing logs where they're doing self TRT. They're using testosterone at low amounts, TRT levels. We see guys using testosterone solo. We see guys using testosterone as part of their cycle. We see guys using long esters, SIP, E, and then we're seeing guys who, especially who are competing or who want to keep a cycle short, using the propionate testosterone. So those are the most popular testosterone options that I've seen. We've also seen blends of testosterone like Sustanon used here and there. So I'll include that along with testosterone. So Beligas has you covered no matter what you want to use. So if you want to copy any of the guys' testosterone options that they're using, that's where you want to go. The next one is Trenbolone. And Trenbolone, we're seeing it used more and more by guys, especially those who are more advanced. Some of you newer guys who are going to do your logs after listening to this, Trenbolone isn't something you want to be doing right off the bat. It's something you want to do down the line. So wait to use Trenbolone because it's a very harsh steroid. It comes with a lot of side effects. And we see guys who are using a lot of Tren Ace, I think, is the most popular with logs. And I see Tren E used here and there, but mostly Tren Ace. A lot of people like to use Tren Ace. Another one, the Mobster, we could talk about too is Masteron. And same thing. Masteron has a short and a long ester. And you know, you got propionate and you got enanthate with Masteron. And I see a lot of people using the propionate. They want to basically use the Masteron like as a finisher to their cycle. So that's what I've been noticing on these laws, especially guys who are competing. They love throwing in the Masteron propionate toward the end of their cycle. What else we got?
As you say, Steve, I've seen that there's multiple options just for the Anavar's example, and I talked about Anavar being a great one for strength for me, 50 milligrams a day, 8 weeks, and I like the fact that they give you a couple of options right on that from the 10 mil and I believe also the 50 mil, but I want to double check on that. But also that they do, and some people love this stuff, Steve. They still do the pill push out in the foil strip as well as the bottles, and that's a great one if you want lean mass and or strength or muscle retention when you're doing, for example, a recomposition. So there's an example. I like the fact again, and I'm just looking at this testosterone here, Steve, that they do quite often. They're giving you the option of 200 milligram and 300 milligram options. Now, obviously, you can dose those how you want to, but it's giving you the option to buy exactly what you want to buy. There are multiple options, both international and domestic, on multiple of their products. A lot of their products come with a pill push out in the case of the orals as well as the bottles. And again, this might just be more convenient for you to be able to carry these things around. Some of you guys only keep your pills and your injectables in the car or in the garage. Some of you are able to do these things at home. So it's very much a case of having the products the way that you want those products to be and giving you multiple options, Steve. I'm looking, for example, at other, let me look here, Steve. Primo Bowling, Steve has already covered the Masterons. I'm looking at two options on the Primo alone, Steve, 100 milligram and 200 milligram. So again, multiple options of different products. A lot of companies, including companies that Steve and I like, you get single options. You might get a bigger vial or a smaller vial. You might get, but typically 200 milligrams per milliliter is the standard. But again, Beligas are giving you 300 milligrams or 200 milligrams as an option. And again, think about it this in these terms, Steve. I might, for example, run testosterone at a lower dose per milligram for my first cycle. But once I've done several cycles, I might want to go to a larger amount. Do I want to inject more milliliters? Do I want to inject more frequently? Or do I want more per milliliter per injection so I can keep that part of things exactly how it needs to be, but having more and still within a comfortable range, for example, with regards to issues for PIP, post-injection pain, because we're not talking about 400 and 500 milligrams here. We're only talking about an increase of 100 milligrams. Yet the injection frequency and the volume that I'm putting in remains exactly the same. And that suits a lot of people. We've even talked about how to deal with that, but Beligas has you covered on that. Have you got any other options there, Steve?
Yeah, so we mentioned testosterone, tren, Masteron, Anavar. You talk about Primobolan. Winstrol is another oral option, and Balagas has different types of Winstrol. They have in the liquid form and they have it in the tab form. So that's a popular option too to really.
Let me give you another example, Steve. And actually, I meant to mention this earlier on when it comes to helping people with cycle. Someone was logging a cycle and the kind of information that we want to see. On our list here is we're talking about ancillaries. So here's the thing that sometimes people can get very focused on the anabolics, the androgens, etc., that they're going to use. And then they, a lovely phrase, I've done my research, is right up there with the tinfoil stuff. And again, especially if you've had advice from a buddy down at the gym, what we will quite often do is talk about the necessity of using an AI and how to dose that AI, the options that there are. For example, we always suggest that you don't use one particular AI straight away. So again, with Beligas, you have multiple options with different dosages, and we want to make sure that you have these products on hand. For example, mistakes that people have made in the past, Steve, is only buying the AI when they've got an issue, which means they got to wait for it. So it's things like having that on hand if you're not running it. Or as I always like to say, running it from the get-go. Why wait until you've got a problem? And these are common issues, especially for the newer user of PEDs. So talk about ancillaries and the kind of help and advice that we can give people with Beligas ancillaries in a training log.
Yeah, so they have a lot of guys are using the dick drugs, the Cialis and Viagra, but they don't just use it for what you think. They're also using them to help with blood flow, and it's something that they use as part of their stack to help with the heart health, and they use it
Yeah.
with blood pressure medication as well. And that's something you may want to consider getting older. Talk to your doctor about it because there's pros and cons of using these dick drugs when it comes to heart issues. It can hurt you and it can help you. It just depends. You need to talk to your doctor. Aromacin and Arimidex, both available from Belagas. They also have additional AIs like Letro, but Aromacin and Arimidex are the most common used that guys are using on their logs. And then for PCT, Clomid and Nolvadex are the most popular options that you can use in PCT, and they work really well. They're SERMs, selective estrogen receptor modulators, so they're going to help during PCT, block estrogen from feedbacking and help get your numbers bouncing back during PCT and prevent a hard crash. HGH is also another option that Blogus has, and they have really good HGH. Quality HGH historically has been hard to find, and now it's easier as ever, and Blogus luckily has it. So that's another option that some guys are using in their logs as they're throwing in HGH, and you can check out their logs. Some of them are using the HGH at 1 or 2 IUs, which is a therapeutic kind of an HRT dose, and some of them are using the HGH 4 IUs, 3 IUs, or more. Those who are competing. So that's an interesting, peptide option using the Belagas HGH. So they have it all, and yeah.
I just want to interrupt you here for a second, Steve. And we don't do this enough on these shows, so I'm reminding myself to do it today. And I'm going to bring Steve in for this. When we're talking about Beligas products and helping people with cycles, I noticed that Beligas has Symphomara type products, meaning products that are specifically aimed for females in their product line. And the majority of our listeners and the majority of people on the forums are men. However, we have a significant number of female listeners and female members on the forum, including several female members that are running logs. So talk about the help that we can give to women, and again, specifically using some of the female option products from Beligas, Steve.
Yeah, and you know how it goes in bodybuilding. The women that are really involved in the forum and really involved in the gym, they are the hardest working. They work harder than the men. They have to, work harder just to gain any respect. You know how it goes in this world. So the women on our forum, they're pound for
Oh, they
pound
rock. They
way
fucking rock,
stronger
Steve.
than the
Yes,
men. I mean, some of them are
yes.
stronger than men overall, but some of them weigh nothing. They weigh like 120, 130
Yeah,
pounds
no.
and they're benching more than guys are
One or two of
benching.
them would kick my ass, Steve. They
Yep.
random pound kick my ass.
But their diets are so on point. Their
Yes,
training is so on point.
fasting.
Yeah. And they do it all. And they're a perfect example. So if you're a female, the popular options that they're using peptides, they're using
Yes,
some HGH here and there,
low dose
which
Anavar.
yeah, low dose Anavar, maybe low dose T-Bol here and there. So those are the popular options that females are using. And Balagas has you covered if you're a female as well.
Yes.
So if you're female, definitely come on and do a log. Um, you know, and look at the end
Check
of
out, lady listeners, check out the lower dose 10 milligram options on the Anavar because it's a lot easier to split that. And
yeah.
specifically, check out their Famara range of products. That's the name that comes after the name of the PED that you're looking at because it's specifically dosed and aimed at the female user. So keep that in mind when you're looking at Belagas.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Belagas overall, why we love Belagas, and I'll bring in Mobster to finish out the podcast. I'll give him the floor to talk about Belagas. So I've used Belagas many times. I know they're reliable. Their shipping is excellent. I think with Belagas, when you order, it's like shipped like within 2 days. They're very, very fast. Um, I've used many of their products, their injectables and their orals that we've talked about. I haven't used them all that we talked about because there's a huge list, but I've used
Please, yeah.
pretty much almost half the list. So I know good gear when I see it. And their products are excellent. They're smooth. Their orals are good. They don't upset your stomach like some of these other brands. They're good quality. Malagas is out of Belgium. They're pretty much pharmaceutical grade in Belgium, Mobster. So you're getting
Yeah,
pharmaceutical grade. You're paying less. You don't have to get a prescription from a doctor if you want, any of these options that they have. And it saves you money. It saves you headache. It saves you time, and it's so easy to order. So you come on the forum and you get more information on how to order Balagas. Just come on the forum and start a thread. Hey, I saw the podcast. I or I heard the podcast about Belagas. How can I get Belagas? And we'll help you, send you the right direction when it comes to using finding Belagas through an approved source, because it does need to be through an approved source. But look, it's ironclad gear, and I highly vouch for it, and so does Mobster. So Mobster, I want you tell
Yeah,
us more.
look, guys, the number of options when Steve and I first started talking about Beligas was overwhelming. I believe, and I have to double check this, guy. So please, don't fact check me. I think they have 140 something products, Steve. That obviously includes multiple options: 200, 300, 450, 500 milligrams, 10 and 50 milligram pills, and so on and so forth. But 140 different products in their product line. They are, as I recall, Steve, an actual licensed pharmaceutical company based in Belgium that happens to produce via resellers, etc., PEDs for you, the listener, to look at and perhaps use in your next cycle or your current cycle or future cycles. Right. So that's that. I mean, the simple fact, here's another example, Steve, and I've talked about this, how products are presented. Beligas products, Steve, look to me like the kind of stuff you'd see behind the pharmacist counter in those cupboards that they get locked behind. So when the cupboard is open, they look like they come from a pharmaceutical company because they do. They are labeled and presented in that particular way for that reason. And so therefore, the way that the mind works, the way that it comes to when it comes to buying particular products, I like products that look clean. I like products that are well tested. And all of the companies that Steve and I talk about on these shows are tested in-house, out of house, independently, and so on and so forth. I like the fact that here, Steve, that you are. There's examples, and I mentioned this before, of one specific thing about Beligas was that they looked at the way that customers were using their products. So when I said earlier on, you have a 200 or 300 or a 450 milligram option, and then what was the one where I think they were doing blends? Is they got multiple blend options as well, where they literally said, "What's the most popular cycle or cycles, 3, 4 cycles that our customers do when they're running our products for performance enhancement purposes? Can we present that combination in a single vial, in a single pill? Can we put together 2 testosterones or the 3 different esters, or can we dose it exactly per milliliter the way that an end user is going to do that?" And they've done that. They give you the options of running it yourself. They give you the option to mix it yourself, and then they present it to you an option that a lot of their customers are already doing, whether that's, for example, some sort of testosterone blend, whether it's a little bit of a twist on a sustanon blend, and so on and so forth. So I like the fact that, again, this is what we talked about with one or two other companies that we talked about, where we said they've literally asked the end user what they would like to see in a product. Are we not selling something that we should be selling that you guys would like to see? Would it sell in sufficient quantities? What cycles do you guys like? Can we make that into a product for you? So there's stuff like that, Steve. And again, that's kind of getting kind of rare, and I mentioned this earlier on, to not see anymore, or should I say to see anymore, the foil pack options for orals. Most companies do sachets, a few still do the little plastic bottles, but very few do the pop the pill out one at a time. And for whatever reason, these are still appealing to some users of these particular products. Shouldn't make a difference to your end results, but it's just a preference. Beligas said, fuck it, we will cover all those options. We have multiple milligrams per milliliter or per pill options on an oral. We will present it to you in a plastic bottle. We will present it to you in injectable form, and in case of a couple of those, Dynabol as an example. And we'll still give you the option, if you want to have a little pill push out through the foil option so that you know exactly where you are. I mean, a great example with the push and pill through the foil thing, Steve, is you can see how many you've used. You don't have to shake the goddamn bottle out, see how many's left. You can see how many's left. And it's a lot easier to stick in your pocket. You're not walking around with this stuff bulging out. So a lot of guys will have their products in their gym bags or in the trunk of their car or in the office desk or whatever, Steve. So the simple fact of the matter is, Beligas kind of has you covered, multiple angles, multiple milligrams per milliliter option, and different forms, echoing, as I say, the way that end users are using their products. And again, you're talking about, as I said at the beginning, a licensed pharmaceutical company based in Belgium, which means it's going to have government inspection. It's going to have local, federal inspection, state, whatever the hell it is. I don't know what the makeup of Belgium is, Steve, but we have local councils here. They will have a similar structure there, and in the same way in America, as you have county and state, the people that come in and check that your manufacturing process is on point. It's not just self-regulation, but exterior regulation that you get with a pharmaceutical company that you do not get with a UTL. So this stuff should make you want to try, trust, and trial Beligas products for that particular reason. Let me just finish this out, guys, with the whole point. We want you to come onto the forums. Let us know what you think about training logs. Are you about to run your first cycle? Don't be nervous. Come onto the forums. We're all good. We'll help you as much as we possibly can. If you've had that experience, let the listeners should know if it's positive. Come onto the forums again. Tell us in the comments below. Have you run Beligas products when you did your first cycle? Tell us about the results. Tell us about issues you've had and how someone else helped you and the support that you got from running a log in that particular way. Please note, we are not doctors and your opinions are ours. It is our view based on our experience and views on the topic. A podcast for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.